Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The penultimate game at Celtic Park for this season is over and done with, and it was a great success. Celtic 3, Hibs 1. A game which could have been a banana peel for Celtic turns into one that we handle with relative ease. And even though we went 1-0 behind, we still made it look quite easy today. So a lot of positives. The final run in, 1 week to go, and we're lifting number 55. Yeah, let's talk about that. If you haven't already, you know what to do. Hit like, hit subscribe. Welcome to the match reaction for Celtic 3, Hibs 1. And a match reaction where I don't need to say too much. It's that point in the season, match day 36 to be precise. The league is wrapped up. Celtic are going about things, business as usual. What is there to rant and rave about that I haven't already this season? This is a fantastic Celtic side who are making sure they get the job done the way that they started the job. There has been no taking the foot off the gas. There has been no complacency shown this afternoon. Celtic went out and got the job done, even with going a goal behind. And you know how difficult it can be sometimes going a goal behind, because you get the same complaints, you get the same drawing of the breath behind your teeth, you get the same nervousness that goes, are we going to drop points today? No, we never looked as though we were going to. Even being 1-0 behind, we handled things in a very professional manner, and it's just a Celtic side who won't stop. And when you consider a lot of the narratives and a lot of the things that you could have picked up on going into today's game, Hibs being a side who have beat us this season, Hibs being a bogey team for Brendan Rodgers, Hibs being the team that really had a lot riding on today's game with Celtic already being champions, a lot of people start to think that complacency might factor in things for Celtic. But there was absolutely none of that from this afternoon's performance. What we've seen was the Celtic that we've been used to seeing at their best this year. You know, I know we had that wee run of form, February time, going into March, where we might have taken the foot off the gas a wee bit and complacency did start to creep in. But as soon as we got rid of that patchy form, we returned to our best. And in a week where we could have downed tools, in a week where we could have been complacent and took it easy on ourselves going into a cup final, we just continue to be relentless. And let me make one thing crystal clear. I don't think Hibs were bad today. Of course not. But Celtic were really good. In fact, I think that 3-1 may have flattered Hibs this afternoon. And I don't just say that to disregard anything that Hibs brought to the table or to say that Celtic are just whatever. I say that because the stats back it up. I say that because I was there and I seen it, in Celtic, if they took a lot more of their chances, could have murdered Hibernian this afternoon. In fact, we witnessed quite a wasteful Celtic at times. But I'm delighted with what I've seen. I think there's a few things that we could have done better. We will come over that and talk about it. But yeah, a fantastic performance from Celtic. Another win. 2 games to go now. What a way we've handled ourselves over the course of this season. So if we take it back to the start, it was nice to see a couple of players returning to the team this afternoon. Nicholas Kuhn back from last week's injury, which kept him out of the Rangers game, and he played really well. And Kasper Schmeichel back as well. A lot of people thought even with Schmeichel, including myself by the way, a lot of people thought that even with Schmeichel returning, Vinny Sinsalo would have been allowed to finish the league campaign. And I think you could argue that case, that he should have maybe been given the opportunity to finish the league campaign. But wow, Schmeichel, he looked as though he never missed a beat this afternoon. Apart from that instance at the start of the game, his pass away out to the left and it went out of start. I was like, oh, we've no rushed Schmeichel back, have we? I mean, he made a couple of great saves. He just looked comfortable and confident. He was, you know, coming out and claiming the ball at any area, any time he had to in his area. It looked like he hadn't missed a beat. And it was really nice to see him back, and you forget how big an influence he is, especially over the defenders, and especially today when you do have a bit of a makeshift back four. You're playing a centre-half partnership who have barely played together. You're playing your backup right back. You know, Schmeichel's presence is important there, and obviously you want to get him back into the swing of things in case you do decide to play him in the Scottish Cup final. You want to at least keep that opportunity open, and it was nice to see him back. It was nice to see Kuhn back, a reminder of how good this Celtic team when it's at its full strength. And we've handled our business pretty well when we've not been at full strength, but to have them back is huge. You can't underestimate the influence of these guys, especially Schmeichel, who, you know, next year ultimately we will be seeing for the last time. It's his last season, so I want to see him as much as I possibly can. But I say that with all credit to Vinny Sinsalo and how good he's been. Anyway, the first 25 minutes, up until Celtic conceded, we started the game as well as we could against a side who are coming third place in the table. They've arguably been the second best. No arguably about it. They have been the second best team in the country for the last however long. The only reason they aren't competing for second is because the start to the season that they had, they'll be kicking themselves. They could have been finishing second this year the way Rangers have been, but they started the season so poorly that they couldn't leave that opportunity open for themselves. Nonetheless, considering the form they've been in, the season they've had, I thought we started the game as well as we could. We could have had goals, we created chances, and we looked comfortable. I mean, Hibs did get forward on a couple of occasions, but I thought we handled it well. A couple of the chances in particular we should have been scoring. I remember Adam Ida, he really should have buried one early on. He forced a save out the keeper, but he really should have been putting it at the back of the net, I thought. There was another couple of chances that were offside. Hibs were playing a really good defensive line. They were catching Celtic offside constantly, in fact. And it was credit to Hibs for the way they set up catching us that much. And, you know, there was parts of me thinking, God almighty, is Adam Ida just born offside? Or is Dyson Maeda just born offside or whatever? But no, it was pretty much down to how Hibs were handling their back line. And making sure that they were catching us out, because we were really in favour of the ball in behind today, weren't we? We were playing it over the top, just finding a way to unleash somebody in behind the centre halves of Hibs. It was favoured by Celtic. We were looking for that more than we were looking for balls down the line, for any other sort of cutting in from out wide. No, we were really looking in for the in behind the defenders sort of pass. And Hibs were catching on to that pretty early doors, catching us offside pretty frequently. But we started well, a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity in it. It was just that goal that caught us a wee bit off guard, and that's what I said earlier in the video, that kind of you draw your breath in a wee bit. Martin Boyle, a mix of poor defending and luck for Hibs, I would say. And I don't mean to just take away anything that Hibs worked for in the goal. They got their goal, they deserved their goal in that moment. But it was a bit lucky. I think even Hibs fans would acknowledge that, the way it kind of ricochets about and it finds its way to Boyle. But we need to deal with it better. And I think that was one of the big questions that came out of today, was the centre-half partnership, playing two left-footed centre-halves. I've seen a bit of discourse around that online. But, you know, in that moment, yeah, they struggled. Outside of that, they handled everything they had to through the game. So, yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system. But what was most important is that Celtic responded. And they responded in the best way they could. They made sure that even as time was ticking away, that half-time, they were still in the lead. Because at half-time, it was Celtic 2, Hibs 1. And when you consider it was still 1-0 Hibs in the 40th minute, that's pretty impressive. But Celtic found a way to unlock the Hibs defence, get their way inside there without being offside, and to score goals. And Nicholas Kuhn finds a wee bit of luck of his own, the way that he manages to get the ball, but with all the technique in the world, takes it round the defender, takes it round the keeper, puts it in the back of the net, 1-1, then followed up very quickly by an Adam Ida goal, which was very well taken and just ultimately needed, I would say. I think there was a few chances in that game today you were going, oh, not this Adam, come on. Because for the first sort of 30, 40 minutes, I was thinking, oh, he's not going to have one of these days where he walks off the park with no goals, missing a couple of chances he should have taken all that criticism. But he took his goal really, really well, so fair play to him. He found the confidence that he needed in that moment to score. And Celtic are leading the game 2-1, but some really good midfield play in the build-up to those goals. Rio Hatate, Arne Engels looked sharp today, looked good today. We found our goals in good fashion. And I think that just really flipped the mental state of the game for Hibs. I think you could see that really early in the second half, that Hibs had to do something to try and come out and get the game. But in doing so, it just let the game get away from them. And then in the second half, Celtic punished them. You know, they found that moment, and Rio Hatate gets the goal. 3-1 up, you're not looking back from there. And as I said, in similar vein to the end of the first half, I think that's how we started the second. We took what we had to defensively, and then we took the ball up the park and done the job offensively. We just looked really sharp today at all areas of the park. There was no negatives for me. If you isolate that 70 minutes where the same 11, Rodgers waited a while today to make his changes. I'd noticed that. I was like, a bit late for the changes. Get Forrest on, get him his goal. I thought we were more than comfortable, but I guess that's the manager guarding against any complacency, guarding against Hibs maybe getting back into the game. You don't want to make 3 changes at the 60th minute. Suddenly Hibs make it 3-2 and you're left in a bit of a predicament. He waited. And that team that played together for the majority of the game, the 70 minutes, there was no negatives for me. The goal being conceded, you could talk about that individual moment, but, you know, these things happen. It's football. You can't be perfect. They're not robots. So through that 70 minutes, I thought they just played really, really well. And, yeah, it's just a team that isn't letting up between now and the end of the season, by the looks of it. It isn't a team that's letting up in any games on the run in now. They want to win the league as emphatically as possible. It's almost as if they're making up for that bad patch in February time, and showing everybody, including their own supporters, hey, don't doubt us, because it's a really, really good team. All the lads out there today were great. I can't believe it's 3 games without a goal for Daisen Maeda. It almost feels like a shock to the system, a panic station moment, because he's just so uncharacteristic of him this season. But, he was involved, he was doing his job today, he had chances. Yeah, listen, as long as we're creating, I don't care who's scoring. And that's the way I'll word it. It was nice to see some of the changes as well. Of course, young Sean McArdle getting a debut for Celtic. And he looked good, by the way. I know he only played for about 5 minutes, but he looked good in that 5 minutes. And he could have had a goal. He was unlucky not to find one, in fact. But, Forrest looked really sharp when he came on. Bernardo looked good. The changes all worked out pretty well. Yeah, listen, it's a game that I feel like there's a very small narrative. There's not much of a narrative coming out of it. Celtic win, big surprise, But, we've got to handle our job professionally. And that's what I've seen from this Celtic team this afternoon. So, yeah, onwards and upwards. I'm feeling confident about the ending to this season, heading into a Scottish Cup final. Of course, we have the dress rehearsal on Wednesday up at Pittodrie. And there's a real psychological aspect to that game. So I want to make sure that we are playing like this. I want to make sure that we are putting the fear into Aberdeen. Because we shouldn't be giving anybody any false hope. We should be giving them all the fear in the world. This is Celtic at the end of the day. Anyway, it's roasting up here. I want out. If you've enjoyed, like and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about things a little bit more in depth, but I'm going to go and have a pint. So, enjoy, take care, I'll see you all next time.